All right, so today let's talk about projection. And today we're going to talk about why everything is your fault. Now, doing this can push your life forward tenfold, and it really takes a level of awareness to see from this perspective. So let me just say this. A few years ago, I went for martial arts. I never really got too far into it, but I always knew it was my responsibility to want to learn how to really defend myself. And I like to seek out the very best when it comes to mentors in any area. So after some research, I met a teacher named John who once worked with a kung fu master. One of the first things the master said to John is, if you're walking down the street and you get beat up by a few thugs, it is actually your fault for not learning kung fu at an earlier age. Now, most people will not agree with that. Most people do not have that level of humility. But if you could take complete and total responsibility for everything that happens in your life, that perspective is what will separate you from the rest of the world. As Americans, we have everything: clean running water, good schools, and free libraries where we can decide to take in knowledge and move up socioeconomically at any time. Middle-class America has wealth surrounding us every single day. We as Americans also complain more than anyone else. We have 90% more obese children, and compared to the rest of the world, we live in abundance. No one said life was fair. There are organisms living among us who will threaten your life for their own survival. And I'm not just talking about people. There are viruses and parasites that can make you sick and get inside you. So as far as they're concerned, they have just as much right to live here as much as you do. So here we are, and we were given this life. But along with that comes a responsibility. It is a responsibility to be proactive and project. Projection is the ability to look to the future and anticipate. But I also thought about what that kung fu master said for years. I thought about what the world would look like if people actually acted with that mindset. Osmosis is when the behaviors of others rub off on us, and it can be used for learning. For instance, a baby calf learns everything it needs to know about survival without language. It learns everything about life from the mother cow through osmosis. Joel Salatin said, we are the sum total of the 5 people we hang around with the most. So we not only want to take total responsibility and project, but we also have to be very careful of the people we surround ourselves with every day. And people often ask me, Brad, how do I create a great social group? How do I create a circle of friends that will support me as I become successful? Well, Dr. David Buss wrote many of the Ivy League textbooks in social science. He said it is the people who get too emotional, then stay there for too long, who are usually the ones who betray you. The people who get knocked off center and stay there for an inordinate amount of time are also probably gossiping or maybe jealous because you're moving ahead. Also, if you have a friend or family member who is always negative or down all the time, that way of living bleeds off into your life through osmosis. So let's just say a job gets outsourced or you get laid off. Let's say a partner betrays you or someone does you wrong. There are very little things in this world we as humans do not have the ability to predict ahead of time. Now think about this. Take a moment and get really honest with yourself. Let's say it's a spouse who decides to leave. Is it possible you lack the awareness to have the ability to see that your spouse was not fully happy in that relationship? Is it possible that you may have missed something along the way? Or maybe you were caught up in a pattern of bringing negativity to him or her when you got frustrated with life? And by the way, if you're doing this as a man, this is a big mistake. Even though the woman wants to help you, if you're using her as a therapist, that's going to get really old in her mind really quick. Whether you're a man or a woman doesn't matter. If you're playing the masculine role, you're to provide strength and certainty to that relationship. If you keep dumping on the other person, they'll eventually doubt your masculine core, and it's a matter of time before they start testing. This is where a lot of relationships go wrong, but it takes the ability to project, and it takes an insightful mind to see it from the other person's perspective. And 90% of the time when a relationship goes wrong, the man doesn't even know what's happened because he really doesn't understand what was expected of him in his masculine role. People often just point the finger, they miss out on valuable awareness, and just take that to the next relationship. So is it possible, without realizing, you may have contributed to the demise of some of your past relationships? Of course it is. It always takes two, but a relationship needs to be nurtured. And if you lack in that awareness, then whose fault is it? Maybe you said or acted a certain way years before that created resentment that came back to you years later. In life and relationships, no matter what is said or what is going on, we always want to guide ourselves toward a playful outcome. Love was meant to be playful, and playfulness and understanding is key. For a man, it's all about keeping positivity and breaking through her barriers. If you are unable to see the demise of that relationship, then you, my friend, definitely played a part. You know, I'm currently reading one book every 10 to 15 days. My goal is to read one book per week because reading is also a form of projection. The more we read, the greater we expand our minds and the more knowledge we take in, and the better we prepare ourselves for the inevitable difficulties that may happen in the future. And I read the statistics. There's a 40% chance that by the time you're 40 years old, you'll have some form of disability that will require you to take off from work for 6 months or more. So if your money flow is steady right now, you should be using projection to set aside 10% of your income for a rainy day. The nature of capitalism itself is unstable, and we live in a world that is always changing. Your ability to anticipate and plan ahead is your greatest asset. Do what is hard later now when it's easy. So what that Kung Fu master meant is everything that is not prepared for is your fault. You are the curator of your own life and you are the master of your own experience. Every single day we want to work with what was given to us, and we want to focus on innovating out of our problems and build with whatever materials are around us. It doesn't matter what you think should be or how you think your life should have gone. What matters much more is it was probably preventable. Have the courage to take total responsibility and project. I want to thank you for engaging with me here today. Just some simple insights as we continue moving toward our path to greatness here together. My name is Bradley Lenart, and we'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, it's Bradley. To get a copy of my book, The Happiness Factors, for free, just click this link right here. You'll also be brought to a page that will give you a free online course by yours truly. No gimmicks, it's all free because I know if I give this out to the world, it always comes back to me. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.